Welcome to the American Mandate. I'm Camden.
I'm Grady.
So, State of the Union, kind of, not really, because it's not the first year, but State of the Union technically happened last night. What are your thoughts on it?
It was Trump's best speech in front of Congress, no doubt. It's probably also his best speech politically that I've heard. I mean, I liked his RNC speech last year. I liked his inauguration speech, but this one was probably his best. It's just
definitely
a home
the most
run.
condensed.
Most condensed. It was a home run, and he didn't really ramble as much as you'd think he would. He stuck to the teleprompter pretty religiously, besides a few moments, which happened to be good moments for the most part. I thought it was very strong for him and the Republican Party, and it was just terrible optics for the Democrats. I mean, some of the worst optics. I think this is pretty much the worst I've ever, like, rock bottom for that party was last night.
This is easily the best speech that he's done, and I don't think he is going to get that kind of credit. And people are going to praise him. They're going to be like, oh, best speech ever. But no, genuinely, like, hearing about the RNC one, his issue is he just kept rambling. And, I mean, hugging Corey's firefighter outfit was...
that was his best moment from that speech.
Like, no, what I'm saying is that, like, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes of that speech was like just totally amazing, really professional. And then it was like 90 minutes of just like weaving and bobbing, just like, yeah. And then his winning speech in November, on November 5th, was really just, you could tell he was tired.
It also wasn't organized very well, because he just kept pointing at people to come say something, and they didn't want to say something. He hadn't slept in
like 2 days or something. But I would say his inauguration speech was very good, but this was even better.
I'm not a big, I get it. There's a whole showman thing to this. All these speeches are. And so that's why I commented on the RNC one, because it was basically just this, look how great I am. I think what made this speech so much better is it was a key line that the speechwriter put in there, which is saying that this is our presidency. Yeah. This is our country. We stand on top of everyone who...
I don't even think that was in the speech.
No, it was in the speech. Whether or not he wrote it or the speechwriter.
No, I mean, like, when he pointed at the thumb and said, "This is our presidency," that was an off-the-cuff thing.
He said that twice.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said it in the speech, and then he said, "Yeah, our presidency." Yeah. And I'm glad he drove that home, because it is. That's the whole point of the president and everyone who backs him, is that this is what we want for our country. Right, you are the representation of our country, our presidency, what we want for the country. So I'm very happy. This has just been since the whole Pam Bondi fiasco of last week.
Yeah.
This has just been consistency of a strong showing from President Trump, basically saying, all right, enough with the sideshow. This is me getting things done with Ukraine and Russia. Yeah. This is me getting things done in Congress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We like to be critical of him as much as we can, but it's going to be hard for me to be critical of this speech, because it's going to sound like a complete praise, but he deserves it. This was his best. This was the peak of his presidency in terms of his candor, in terms of his actions, and just like, it was like, this is the apex. It's kind of sad because we're never really going to have, like, this 4 years isn't that long, and we're never going to have this again. We might have Vance, and it might be great. And there's things about Trump that I don't love, but this is truly like, it feels like the peak of the Republican Party under the MAGA movement has kind of apexed, and I'm just worried that...
It's hard, because, like, when we have people in politics, right, it's at max, you are the height of politics for 9 years, roughly.
Right.
He will be the height of Republican politics for
14 to
15 years.
Yeah.
At the end of it. And... like, that's yours and mine, pretty much our entire adult life.
Oh,
and more. And it's
I'm going to miss the guy.
I'm like, it's funny because it's the beginning of his presidency, but just small moments. Like, I understand it's all the show, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm praising all these people. Look at me praising these people. But it really felt genuine, saying,
it's like, listen, man,
hey,
these are American citizens.
This is who Jocelyn was as a human being. I want to rename an animal refuge because that's what matters to her. Right. Hey, Laken Riley was killed from an illegal alien
now her
who
name
came across
will live forever.
Now her name will be living immortally in this
act to end what caused her death.
And I just, there's stuff like that I really appreciate. And I think Trump genuinely, he is genuine.
He loves his country.
You can't deny that. Now, talking about the Democrats,
yeah,
I've never seen a more disgusting group of human beings in my life.
They're demons.
Like, we've seen them all over history just be like, they've been the anti-war party. They've been the civil rights party. They've been like the party that's been seen as we care about you first and foremost. Like, I know it was Democrat versus Republicans in the early 2000s, but a lot of Democrats were very much against the Iraq war, saying this is bad. That's the party that they were. And Nancy Pelosi was still a part of the party 20 years ago down there. Now we're at the party where it's like, you won't stand for a kid his cancer was gone away. You won't stand for a man who saved his fellow border agent on the border, and you won't stand for ending the war in Ukraine. You'll stand for sending or clap for sending money to Ukraine, but you want
no security.
As Trump said, you want this to keep going for another 5 years. And I'm sorry, like I am so patriotic in the sense of, like, if you go after my president, I'm going to defend him, whether it's Biden, whether it's Bush, whoever it is, because I care about that. It is despicable that these Democrats are putting Ukrainian flag as their pin instead of the American one. Yeah. Having a blue and yellow tie. And I mean, it was despicable years ago when they put on the Ukrainian flag in our Congress building. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry. You be patriotic over there. And it was the whole funny thing about, like, last, like, week or 2 weeks ago when, like, all the the Ukrainians were taking the American flag off their helmet. And I'm mentally thinking, like, who orchestrated and said that was okay for you to do that in your own military? Yeah. If someone did that in our military and had a Ukrainian flag on there, it's disgusting.
Right.
I'm sorry. Like, this is our country. These are our values. This is who we care
never
about.
wanted our flag on your helmets anyway.
No, you don't deserve it.
Right.
I mean, like, the citizens, of course, like, they're fighting to protect their country, but they're higher up, the actual government, they're just prolonging this war, and it's disgusting. The Democratic Party, I mean, everyone is going to show I've seen it all over X of them. Of Al Green showing his cane up in the air and it being a high quality photo and them being like, yeah, this is our party. And it's like, really? That's your party?
Yes, that's your party.
That's who you want? Like, not this is your party of, like, realizing that this is, that, like, they were proud of this person. And I'm like, he just started the speech. And Al Green is, like, showing his cane in the air, like, yeah, I'm taking you out, Mr. President. I'm taking you on. And it's like, shut up.
Shut up and get out, man.
Like you wanted to be seen as a martyr because you were, like, kicked out, and then everyone is online, oh, Trump talks about free speech, and then he got kicked out, Al Green. It's like, yeah, because
he's trying to give a speech and you're interrupting it.
Yeah, the president was invited by the Speaker of the House to speak. Shut up. If you don't want to clap, if you don't want to stand, and you want to be disrespectful, by all means, sit there and do that. I don't care. I will say, base level appreciation. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders showed up, so we had some pretty funny pictures.
Yeah, oh my God, and Nancy Pelosi's face.
Like, I'm grateful Pocahontas showed up. I mean, I was worried that she wasn't going to.
Yeah,
but
I would have been devastated without her.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have had that moment.
No, that's what's great.
Pocahontas wants to keep it going.
I could have done without Adam Schiff, though. He could have left.
Dude, that guy didn't even move an inch.
He did not flinch.
He is definitely the most corrupt person there. No doubt.
100%. That
guy should be in prison.
Well, he hasn't been convicted or anything. Is, like, no charges have been put forth. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, he's got a pardon. They can't do anything to him. But he should be in prison.
Oh, did Biden give him a pardon?
Yeah, he's on the January 6th committee.
Oh, I forgot about that. He was on January 6th.
Adam Schiff is basically they can't touch him. The only thing they can do is force him to testify, and if he lies under oath, then he can be charged for contempt of court, basically contempt of Congress, essentially. If he's testifying to Congress and he lies, because he has no right to a fifth. Accepting a pardon means you have no right to plead the fifth to testify charges that you would have been charged with. So he still has to testify to things he did, and if he lies about it, and they can prove he lied, then he goes to jail.
We're just gonna run down this rabbit hole with that though, because of like with Steve Bannon and things that was already disgusting. And I understand the argument from the Republican Party. It's like, well, they did this to us. They already started the track going downhill, so might as well keep it going. No,
I'm all for it if we can get.
I want to stop.
I'm all for it if we can get Adam Schiff in jail because if you're lying about crimes you did commit, you should go to jail.
Yeah, no, I understand the argument. I just think we need to move past it because this ball started rolling very, very slowly when Republicans decided, oh, we're going to hold Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for like saying that he didn't have sexual relations with a woman. That's what you're going to throw him in contempt of Congress. Yes, technically, right? Technically, but come on.
I don't know what hill to die on there, but Adam Schiff is the most corrupt politician in 250 years. If we can put him in jail, we will.
We need to get him out of Congress is what you need to do. And just imprisoning him, he's just going to be seen as a martyr. That's what you're going to do. I mean, look what they did to Donald Trump.
Yeah, they need to at least kick him out.
I agree. That's what we need to do.
He shouldn't be. I cannot believe he got upgraded to the Senate. That's despicable.
Well, we had a decent Republican going against him. They just had no Democrats going against Adam Schiff that were like any worthwhile. So it's disgusting. But I mean, it's the same thing with Ruben Gallego. He got upgraded from the House. Piece of garbage human being. So I don't know. I am kind of interested in what you think about because he put forth a death penalty on anyone who murders a police officer. Good. What is your belief on that?
Well, like you said, if it was anybody who kills a police officer, that would have been kind of sketchy. But
yeah,
it was murder. That's the word he used. So if that's true, you should.
Yeah, there was confusion when people were texting me saying that anyone who kills a police officer goes to death penalty. And I'm like, that's a little far because, I mean, there's just so many,
and I didn't remember what he said, but when we watched it back,
he said murder, which is exactly what it should be. If you decide to murder anybody in our coat of arms, anyone in military, anyone police officer, any of those, that genre, I don't have another but a word category, like, you should be put to death. I mean, like, we've kind of gotten wishy-washy in this country about the death penalty because we're like, oh, we don't exactly know what all the facts, and I'm on that side of things. You know, like, if like I understand it. Like, for a while, I was very worried about the death penalty because there's a lot of people on death row that didn't do anything wrong.
I just don't like a lot of the ways they do it.
But
I think it needs to be just clean.
But then again, if
done.
there is a clean understanding of being like, this person killed this police officer, 100%, you're gone. It's an injustice.
I'm more for the death penalty than paying for the taxpayers paying for them to be sit in prison their entire life. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a pedophile, you're getting put to death. That's how it should be.
You touch a kid, you're done. I have no sympathy, and I don't think. But the thing is that sending them to prison is a death sentence, basically. But then now we protect them.
But that's
now we have put them in their own ring.
It's just such a goofy argument to say that. It's like, oh well, they'll be treated badly in prison. It's like, I don't give a fuck. They should not be on this planet.
I'm not making that as an argument, though.
I know, but I'm just saying that's their argument.
It's a joke.
It's
like,
a joke. Yeah. Guess what? My money's still paying for them to be there. I don't care. They're gonna die today. How about that? They don't deserve to live anymore.
But then this is the whole thing with death row. Is death row just like people stay on death row for years upon years upon years, and it's like,
well, speed the process up, man.
If there is undeniable fact of that this person
murdered
a police officer, if this, not even just convicted, because there was a guy on death row that was the driver and a guy in a drive-by shooting, and he's an accomplice to the murder. But the guy's like ran into the gas station, shot the guy, and came out, and he drove off. I believe that guy should go to prison, but
he shouldn't be on death row.
He shouldn't be on death row, and that's kind of why I'm like, I really want to rework.
But if you were convicted of directly murdering a cop,
no, 100%.
Goodbye.
If you're if
but
you're
there is
of
methods
of
there is methods of execution that I don't approve of. I've heard a lot of bad things about the injection. It's actually really inhumane. because they can't say, oh, it's very humane. It's like, well, who did you ask? Because everybody you could ask is dead. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of reports that it's actually very inhumane and it's very painful. I don't know, man. Shoot him in the head. No, it's not very clean, but it's quick.
And just act like what, Christy Nome? Like just
Yeah.
take out the back of the farm with the dog.
I couldn't believe that story. The more I looked into that, I'm like, the dog like attacked somebody, and it was a rabid dog, and it needed to die. I mean, like I read the story, and I was like, who would be mad about this?
You don't put that in your book, and you don't promote that. Like that's a little like.
Yeah, I guess that was
come
kind
on.
of, it was bad optics, but she didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion.
No, she didn't do anything wrong. Like, if she's having a conversation about, like, yeah, this is the reality of a farm life and talking on a podcast, yeah, I wouldn't be mad about that. But she wrote it in her book, and she was, like, very clear and, like, like very, like, clear about, like, yeah, I took my dog out back and shot. I'm like, really? Like, you were in the running. You weren't going to make it, but you were in the running to be vice president at one point. And, like, you shot your dog and shot your chance at vice presidency, you know? Yeah. So I do think it's interesting from Trump's speech. He was talking about like, oh, cutting aid in all these places and cutting also foreign aid and like putting a freeze on that completely. And I wonder how you react, because the Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision basically said you can't do that and basically cut that off this morning.
Well, it was never meant to be permanent. In
Yeah,
fact, he had already, I think, unfroze it before they even made that distinction. Because he said we're putting a temporary freeze so we can just see what's going out. And once we're done, the problem was the OMB wasn't clear on what they were supposed to do. But he did reverse it, and he basically said, listen, we don't know what's going out the door. We just got here. We need to take a look at what's funding for the foreign aid, and we're going to go down the list, see if there's anything fraudulent or wasteful, and we'll cut it. But if not, we'll resume it. And he did end up resuming it, is what Marco Rubio said in that interview.
Here's my issue, is like, I think that's ridiculous that the president could not put a pause on it.
Exactly.
I think it's ridiculous that a 5-4 decision, really, that we, against the president's putting a freeze, not permanently withholding foreign aid. Also, it's foreign aid. It's not domestic aid, right? It's foreign aid that we are giving away. Like, I understand probably the argument is that like it was allocated from Congress and the president is blocking it, even though the will of the people technically said that we're going to send this out. It's a BS argument. If the president wants to freeze money going somewhere, the president can freeze money going somewhere. The president is the only person in the entirety of our government that is voted on by every single person in America that wants to vote for a position. Is the only person. You can make an argument for the vice president, but really you're just voting for the president.
Yeah.
And so
he's just by default.
And like every state votes for House and Senate, and they vote. And so like it is the only position that it enacts the will of the people. 77 million people voted for Donald Trump to fix our country. And this is what Elon Musk came in for Doge. And like listing off all these payments for all these foreign countries that we're sending money to. And this is not foreign aid. This is, I mean, you could say it's foreign aid, but come on, transgender rats. Like, come on now. Like this is what our country has come to, that we just give money to everybody.
Migrants. He was like, nobody knows what that is.
I was hoping you would explain it, and he just said no one knows what it is, and
moved right on.
But this country has been full of frauds and full of disgusting human beings. I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, wow, we've set up a country so great as far as like the Speaker of the House standing there and invites the president formally, and Senate, even though it's the top chamber of the House, is like it still comes into the House of Representatives because that is more representation of the people. And like I'm just thinking about like how beautiful our country is, and then I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, we have all these spineless Democrats over here sitting there feeling like they're forced to be here. And a lot of them didn't even show up. And a lot of them were moving and just leaving out.
At first I was like, I don't really care that they're not showing up. And then, I thought more about it. And I'm like, we pay for your salary. It's your job to sit your ass in that seat.
We pay for them to show up and to sit there and listen to our president.
Yep. That we voted for.
It's despicable. It's disgusting. And
do you agree that this is like the most partisan that this chamber's ever looked?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's the worst I've ever seen.
Here's what's funny about it. It is the most partisan that basically our entire body of government has looked, but is the most united our country has been, and since Bush's
when you look
speech
at
after
the polls
9/11.
and the CBS poll and the CNN poll, like 76% of people thought that was a great speech and they approved of it. That's crazy.
Because it was like just like looking at it. If Biden gave that speech, I would have been like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Like, even if he changed some things and said that we're going to help Ukraine and, like, he did some BS stuff that we don't care about, I'd have been like, wow, this is a fulfilled speech. This is a presidential speech.
I remember Biden giving a speech back in 2016, campaigning for Hillary Clinton. And he said something, he's like, we are America and we own the finish line. And it was, like, a really good line. And I'm like, wow, Biden really fell off. Like, he used to know how to, like, speak. But, yeah, I mean, if he were to deliver that, I'd be like, hey.
Biden, we forget how good of a politician Biden was through the years.
He was very liked as a VP, even though he wasn't good. Very corrupt, but like by the general public. Yeah, Obama hated him, but he was like, he's always the guy with the sunglasses and the sports coat. Like that was like his thing, And he was a pretty
Grandpa Joe.
Yeah, Grandpa Joe. And then he got elected, and then it just tanked, man. Mentally.
I gotta say though, Joe Biden's presidency goes over Obama's just for the endings, like walking up to the stand after Kamala lost and like smiling and like he ran all the way up there.
He's
and
so voted for Trump.
I've never seen a man so happy that
someone
of his own party lost.
Hated her more than he hated Trump.
Oh, well, I mean, so many reports came out about how he was blindsided by it. We all thought about like, oh, there's no way Biden just went out of this, and sure enough, he didn't. No, that letter got shot out, and then Biden just had to go along
literally,
with it.
like the day before that, one of his staffers literally said, Joe Biden's staying in the race. He's not leaving. He's going to beat Trump. And then, like, the next day, it was like a letter on Twitter that said, yeah, he's dropping out.
Well, yeah,
wasn't even his normal signature. And then he went out on Twitter and endorsed Kamala immediately, which basically forced Nancy Pelosi and Obama to have to get behind this just nothing burger of a candidate.
No,
I think he basically said, listen, you're going to shoot me out. I'm going to endorse this bitch. Or maybe Kamala had one of the people that uses his account say, I need you to endorse me through Biden's account because otherwise they're not going to go with me.
No, I think people like Schumer and Pelosi talked to Biden saying we need to get you out of the race as soon as possible. And then
because Pelosi wanted a primary to happen, actually.
Which would have been way better, and they probably would have actually got pretty close. Yeah. I don't think they would have won still.
Like had Newsom won the primary, that would have been a tight election.
I don't think at that point it might have been that tight because Newsom was having a lot of difficulty at that point. I don't think Newsom.
Anybody with any sort of talent.
Yeah.
Could have come up.
If they put Shapiro, maybe.
Like they couldn't have. It was right. I mean, this is during the Israel stuff.
Yeah, that's true. No, maybe Tim Walz. Tim Walz would have killed it. You kidding me? Like, yeah. Like he's running in 2028.
Tampon Tim.
Tampon Tim. That he should just own that. You know what? He should just have signs saying Tampon Tim for president in 2028.
Yeah.
I wouldn't vote for him, but no. I'd laugh about it.
Yeah, it'd be funny.
Either way, with this speech, I'm very proud of our president right now. There's things I've heavily disagreed on that I've said on this podcast, but
he made me feel better about some of the things though. Like tariffs, it made me feel like it's clear that he is really getting behind tariffs because he wants his enemies to think that he really believes in them.
Well, he's selling it with the McKinley thing. Yeah. I think that is I do not think there is a.
I think he knows it. He knows that the more he sells it, the more worried they're going to be. They're like, "Holy shit, this guy actually likes these tariffs. He actually believes in these tariffs." It's like, "Oh my god, he's gonna."
You know what makes the world believe it is that people like Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, and all of us coming on being like,
"This is a bad idea.
Is stupid." Like all economists say this is retarded.
Yeah, and Trump's like, "We're gonna keep it going."
Yeah,
and Canada's like, "Holy shit, we can't win a fucking trade war with you," and Trump's like, "We're gonna keep it going."
Did you see on all these companies get together and like put a sign saying that they signed an order saying we are not going to sell American alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
and then like the top comment below is like, didn't you already buy it? So you're just saying you're going to eat the cost.
Yeah. It's so funny. Did you see, I think you sent something, but that, the Canadian Ford, that guy, that video that came out that was like a dub of him speaking.
Yes.
The funniest thing I have ever seen come out of Canada. I mean, literally the funniest shit ever.
Yeah.
When I get rid of those terms, does Timmy, we're going to get rest.
I've never seen him so serious.
It's so funny.
Ford is
just a goofball.
Honestly, though, you got to give credit where credit's due to Ford. I mean, he has taken, he is in more of the spotlight than Trudeau is. And I think he's probably making a run to be the the leader of the party when Trudeau leaves.
It's funny because then they'll only have a few months before an election happens, and they're going to get destroyed by the Conservative Party because the Conservative makes up there's zero chance that they lose this time because the Conservatives have taken such a majority that even if they were to try to do their whole NDP liberal thing again, they would still lose.
I'm hoping.
But the problem is Pierre Poilievre, or the hell his name is, he's kind of shooting himself in the foot by. I mean, he's doing the correct thing, which is I'm standing with Canada, but in doing so, he's kind of shooting himself in the foot politically because he's losing support among his constituents.
Well, and it's just because
he's got to stand with
now
Trudeau.
America versus Canada.
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
But he's doing the right. I don't fault him for it. I just think he's kind of hurting himself politically because he's got to stand next to Trudeau and basically say like, no, we're both in this together, blah blah blah. When he spent the whole time attacking Trudeau, what he should be doing is like, we're getting tariffs and they still have a carbon tax. Trudeau needs to blah blah. That's what he should do, but he's not. He's saying Canada.
He should just come out and say that when I'm prime minister, we'll become the 51st state of the United States of America. And
then he might win. No, but he's very clear he doesn't want that to happen. And I think if he were to win and get rid of all this stupid shit up in Canada, I think Trump would probably back off. If they can work together, make a new trade agreement, if he can actually secure the border and lower taxes up there, I think Trump would be like, all right, Canada, you stepped up. You got a new leader. Have fun.
The stance from Donald Trump has always been the same. Donald Trump's security for America's security for its own country matters on top of everything.
Yep.
We don't want drugs flowing into our country from our evil top hat and the evil bottom half. We do not want illegal immigration flowing through the border. We do not want South America giving us all their despicable human beings.
Yeah.
Take it, they're probably better than the Democrats in Congress that we elected, but we still don't want them. We don't want more of those people. We don't want tariffs on all of our goods from all these countries. People do easily forget Trump did not start this tariff war. We've gotten a lot of our individual stuff, as far as dairy products, as far as energy, is already tariffed from countries like Canada. And so Trump is just saying, here's 25% tariff to just say F you, essentially.
Yeah.
And Canada
he just said if they retaliate, he's going to raise it. Yeah. That's a tariff war. But guess what? And I appreciated that he did say to the American citizens, he goes, listen, there's going to be maybe a bit of a rough patch, but we've been getting fucked by these countries for decades on trade. We pay such a massive deficit for Canada's defense, and they have not solved their border issue, which is what I needed them to do. He goes, if we get into a trade war with them, they will lose.
The thing is
but we will feel it a little bit. And he goes, I want you guys to brace for that. And I did appreciate he said that. He didn't lie to the American citizens and say, oh, it's going to be great. He goes, literally,
when you're throwing tariffs and you get into a trade war, there's always going to be winners and losers.
Yeah.
And right now there is a whole bunch of companies that are coming back to America. There's the whole semiconductors from Taiwan that's coming in.
Huge.
There is Japan not making their car manufacturing in
Apple coming back
in Mexico and moving it to Indiana. Apple was already planning on coming back, but there's a lot more money that they're putting into it.
Yeah.
This is going to be good for our economy. We need to make ourselves
hurt temporarily. But like he said in the speech, or not he said, but I can't remember who said it, but somebody was saying that Canada's it's 35% of their GDP is the products they export to America. Our products to Canada is 1.5% of our GDP. If we get into a trade war, it might hurt a little bit, but they're going to get destroyed up there.
Yeah. The trade war
Complete
is not going to
economic collapse.
I think people are overthinking how the trade war is going to affect us. The main thing that's hurting us is the oil.
Yeah.
Because we get a lot of our crude oil from up there, and then
But we have a lot of it down here. We just haven't.
But that's the whole point that
yet.
Trump is making, is that, and that's why I'm curious as to why they went after Canada immediately. Because you could have gone after Mexico and you could have gone after China and started with those two, because it's
and wait till you
those
get oil
are easily.
Wait till you get some oil up, and then you start going.
And that's been my whole point this time, is that Mexico.
Why pick every fight at the same time?
Exactly.
He wanted to have the speech and say, look at my first month. I went after everybody. I'm fighting for America. That's why he did it. It's optics.
But he just didn't realize that everyone was going to be stupid.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that if you go United States against the world will be against. It's the other way too. The world is against you. And so if he went after Mexico because of the legal border crossings, that makes sense to Americans sitting at the dining room table. You go after China, that makes sense to Americans sitting at the dining room table. As
But
soon
if
as
you go
you
after
go
the
after
European Union, you go after.
if you go after Canada is seen by a lot of Americans as like literally our best friend and our allies. It's the closest country we have besides the UK as far as just relationships go. And so going after them immediately, especially when we haven't opened up like our oil in America yet. We haven't put everything into Alaska yet. I haven't seen really what he's doing with the Grand Canyon area in Arizona. He was talking about doing stuff there. I don't know if I agree with all of that, but I understand we have so much federal land here. That's where he's aiming for. But focus on building that up, and then focus on our economy getting a little bit better, because then you can take something to the American people and then be like, look, this is how our economy is. Listen, it's going to hurt for a little bit because we have to go after Canada and go after the EU and go heavy at China. But then again, I'm just some guy talking on a podcast here, and
he's a very successful businessman.
Trump knows
he
way
did
more
well
than
in his
me.
first term until COVID. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. I do have concerns, but the speech was good. He did address some of my concerns. I do feel a little bit better about it. I'm trusting him.
And I think that's the big thing.
I think a year from now, I do think things will look better economically.
And that's the big thing, is we're going to have to watch like everything he said here, and he's given us so much confidence. It's like, okay, I've seen what you're doing in the first 4 weeks. I'm understanding what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep your promises and trying to just do all the hard stuff at the beginning of your term. A year from now, we have to figure out if this is actually sustainable. Yep. If not, he has to change course if we want to have this sustain.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was a great speech. Democrats are effectively rock bottom. They'll come back, but I think this is definitely the worst they've ever looked optically. I think their party is pretty much dead and gone for the time being. Like I said, they'll find new talent. It might take a while. They might win midterms. They might not. As of right now, it looks pretty bad for them, but never underestimate your enemy.
I think it's a lot worse than... I seriously thought that we were going... 2026 did not look good for Republicans at all. Just looking at it, looking at the past and looking at how things were going, I think we're going to have a trade-off. Biden had a great midterm that last period of time. He was seen as this fantastic president because of it.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing's going to happen here. Trump is going to... I think we're going to keep the Senate, keep the House, or I think we're going to gain seats. I think we're going to gain governor seats.
If this momentum continues and the party doesn't learn anything between now and election year next year, we'll gain numbers in both chambers, I believe, or at least maintain Senate numbers and maybe gain a couple seats in the House.
Yeah.
It might not be a blowout. I have no expectations for a blowout. In fact, I have no expectations for a real win, but I'm optimistic, I guess, going into it. I'm more optimistic today than I was a couple days ago.
I mean,
because the Democrats are actually less organized than I even previously thought. Looking at the
signage,
the paddles and the whiteboards and the pins and then the resist. I'm like, these people have no message. They don't even know what to do.
Do they not realize that it just looks like they're trying to sell something or trying to buy, like they're trying to buy something like yeah, I'll take that for $10 million.
By the way, those paddles were like the worst decision they could have made because people on X immediately took them and just changed the text of everything they were saying.
I really liked, what was it, Talib? It represented Talib, who kept like a whiteboard and kept like holding it up.
That was pretty fun.
That was pretty great.
But they're stupid because they know people online are just going to change what they wrote. Like there's a bunch of them that says, I'm a retard. I'm like, it just looks bad on them. Why would? And there was even people on CNN who were like, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen the Democrats do." Like, why are you like? Do you want like this is not a platform to win? Like, literally, lifelong Democrat, liberal, crazy person on CNN panel literally said, "This is not how you win a midterm. Is go out with paddles. That's not how you win. This is just stupidity."
They look like the losing party, and I think the Republicans have been here before, right? When we had McCain Mitt Romney, right? And it wasn't like this, but like we felt like the losing party. We did not have a path forward. And we've had people like shout in like if at Joe Biden, and it was immature, and we didn't like it. No one liked it, but this was abysmal. I mean, and I think
I've never seen this levels of just depravity in.
It shows the American people are not this dumb, though. I mean, like the numbers came out, and it's 36.4 million people watched this. That's up 4 million from when Joe Biden did this speech.
Yeah.
And that was after Joe Biden everyone was home. It was COVID.
People actually care about this presidency. I've never given this much of a shit. I've never paid this much attention to the first couple months ever in my life.
I've never paid this much to cabinet members. I've never cared this much about who is in the House and who's in the Senate.
Dude, I have the Senate schedule bookmarked so I can open it and refresh it and see what they're voting on today. I've never done that in my life.
And I think that's true for a lot of people, though, because they actually care and they want to see, like,
people
good or bad.
X are trying to, like, looking like, what is Pam Bondi doing today? What is Cash doing? Like, I never cared what the FBI was doing in my life.
But now every day we're looking at the news and being like, oh, this is how things have changed. So
X was, if Elon Musk didn't buy X, we would not have won this election.
If nothing else, like as far as Donald Trump goes, right? Say he's one of the worst presidents in our history. What you can say about Donald Trump is he has made us all care about our country, care about what's happening, care about our politics, and I hope that this is a trend that continues through Vance and through whoever else is ahead of the Republican Party.
Yep. It was a great day for him. I think it was the finale of his victory tour.
Now it's time to get to work.
Yeah, for real. And I think he was a genius in the sense that he boxed the Democrats into a corner when he said, nothing I do, nothing I say, nothing I accomplish will make them stand, clap, cheer, anything. These people do not love America. And then he went and said, how about just for tonight? How about you celebrate with us and try to make America great again and work with us? And they wouldn't do it. And then he proceeded to praise a bunch of American citizens, give them their moment, and they wouldn't even stand for that. And that he boxed them into a corner. He said, they won't clap, but you're welcome to clap. And then like, oh, now we can't clap. And then he's like bringing up all these people that anybody would clap for, and they wouldn't stand and clap for it.
They're just everyday Americans that he rose up. The reason why is because the Democrats' fault that Laken Riley was killed.
Yeah.
It is the Democrats' fault that Corey died.
Yeah.
It is their rhetoric. It is their consistent hatred for Donald Trump.
It's their policies.
It is their policies that are the reason that Donald Trump
like
is up on that stage.
That guy wouldn't have had to protect that agent wouldn't have had to protect his partner if the border had been locked down.
All of this is a culmination of what the established Republicans and the Democratic Party has been doing for the past 20 years.
If not longer.
If not longer.
And these are the people that it directly affects, the heroic people and the tragedies, and, you know, like the guy from Russia that the Democrats just ignored that he got back home with his mother. It's just him saying, like, we're going to prop these people up, the people that they've ignored. And they continue to ignore today. And it's just like the Democrats have never looked worse. I truly don't think they're going to win midterms. And if they keep it up, they won't even win 2028. If they consistently keep this up, if they don't pivot, if they don't get new talent, if they don't find a new message, they will never win anything ever again.
The one thing I will say on midterms before we wrap this up is the reason midterms have constantly been a weak point for Republicans, especially in the past 10 years, is because Donald Trump wins because Donald Trump is on the ballot. And a lot of these people will not show up to the ballot because Donald Trump's not on it. And that's a real issue Republicans have, especially when Vance comes in.
But it seems like I've never paid this much attention to an election, and I do feel like people like Scott Pressler have gotten people genuinely excited about midterms. I mean,
I agree.
I do think this at least this midterm will be the most focused, like, on X, and people like get out, vote. Like
these white suburban moms who don't know anything, who are scared to death, and they're like, oh, I need to send all this money because I'm not a racist. All those kind of women, those are the ones that are going to get out to vote in the midterms.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, all he has to do is say, get out and vote, and also do not make a Roe v. Wade situation. because that's how we lost.
Yeah.
Is because you gave something for the Democrats to hold on to tight.
Yeah.
Right now they have nothing.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to get mad at the economy. It's like the economy feels, if not a little bit better, since Trump has taken.
How can they make fun of shit like the price of eggs and the price of gas when they stood by for 4 years and didn't make a sound when our economy was in the shit can?
That's
because
the thing.
of Joe
It's
Biden.
not extreme.
They never cared about that, but they care about the couple little situations we're going through right now with Trump. And they're like, dude, you didn't care then, but now you suddenly care about American people and their everyday
That's
problems?
the thing. Going from Trump to Biden, it was very clear what happened as far as just enormous amount of money that just are increased in our deficit. And it was very obviously seen how much everything cost. Yep. Biden to Trump again, I mean, we have to see that the economy gets better. That's something that has to happen next year.
Right.
But if he comes out in the State of the Union and it's like, look at our economy, and gas is back down to $3 or below, and in California it's down from $200 to $750. I mean,
we'll win the midterm.
We'll win the midterms.
That's got to be his mission. His number one mission. He's already secured the border. That's his number one thing that was his biggest. I think that was the biggest accomplishment he could come last night and talk about was the border, because he's
94%.
I mean, that's just
decrease.
That's just impressive. I mean, you can't. That's just insane levels of impressive. So he won on the border immediately. He got that shit locked down, and deportations will probably take a while. And
that's the big thing. He needs to ramp that up.
That for sure. But the big thing was locking the southern border, stopping the source of the problem, and he locked that shit down tight, man. And he sent our own military.
The other thing we have to realize is this is the first 50 days. So this is getting rid of all the stuff from Joe Biden's term. It is putting executive orders in and sending people out. Yep. I've said it before that a lot of he's talked about executive orders. He keeps talking about executive orders. And I'm just like, those all are just saying, hey, you now have the authorization to go figure that thing out.
Yeah.
Nothing really else besides that. This latter half of 50 days is going to be very important. And
for sure.
I hope for the best for our president.
Yeah. I think next year State of the Union will be in a lot better shape, and he can take credit for it. So, I guess so.
Anyhow, thank you for tuning in to this edition of American Mandate, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Take it easy.